A dragon mother begged a human on his knees, tears in her eyes, scales shimmering with fear. "Please, my baby, they've taken him." She cried. Aliens had kidnapped her hatchling, keeping it chained like a toy. Everyone said humans were weak, but tonight, one human would prove them all wrong. Eli had been walking through the jagged canyon for hours. The sun was setting, casting long shadows across the rocky walls, and a cold wind whispered through the narrow gorge. He was searching for rare minerals, hoping for something valuable, but the canyon was silent, too silent. Even the birds had disappeared. Just as he thought of turning back, a strange, low sound echoed off the cliffs. At first, he thought it was a wild animal, but the sound wasn't like any animal he had ever heard. It was deep, guttural, almost like a growl mixed with a cry. His heart raced as he froze, scanning the canyon. The wind carried again, and this time was closer, louder and full of fear. From behind a jagged boulder, a massive shape emerged. Eli's breath caught in his throat. The creature was enormous, easily the size of a truck, with scales that shimmered faintly in the fading sunlight. Its wings were folded tightly against its back, and its tail whipped the ground in anxiety. But what struck Eli most was its eyes, huge, golden, and filled with panic. The dragon moved carefully toward him, trembling. Eli took a step back, unsure if he should run. Most people would have fled, but there was something about the creature's gaze, something almost human in its fear and desperation, that rooted him to the spot. The dragon opened its mouth, and a strange, almost musical sound came out. To Eli's shock, words formed. "Please, help me, my baby." Eli's jaw dropped. Dragons weren't real. At least, that's what everyone said. And yet, here it was, a living, breathing dragon speaking directly to him. I don't know if I can," Eli stammered, but the dragon interrupted him with a sharp, pleading cry. "They took him. They took my baby." The dragon's voice shook with desperation. "Aliens, strange creatures, they took him. I cannot reach him. You must help me." Eli's mind reeled. Aliens? Dragons? Babies in danger? It sounded like something from a storybook. A tale no one would ever believe. Yet the dragon's panic was real. He could see the scales ripple as it shivered, the wings trembling, the tail lashing back and forth like a whip. The air itself seemed to thrum with the dragon's fear. Where did they take him? Eli asked, finding his voice. Far, far away in the sky, a ship, a fortress in the clouds, so high, so strong, they keep him chained, the dragon said, lowering its massive head. Its breath fogged the air, warm and scented like firewood and rain. I cannot reach him alone. They will not listen to me. Only you can help. Eli's legs felt weak. He had faced dangers before, but nothing like this. Aliens, dragons, flying ships. This was beyond anything he had ever imagined. He looked at the dragon's eyes again. The desperation, the fear, the helplessness. It pierced him. Most humans would have turned and run, convinced it was madness, a hallucination, or some elaborate trick. But Eli felt something else. A flicker of courage, a spark of determination that stirred deep inside him. How can I help? I'm just a human, he whispered. You are small, yes, but clever. Quick, brave. You see the world differently. You might succeed where I cannot. The dragon's words were almost a whisper now, filled with hope and urgency. I have tried, I have flown, I have shouted, but they do not listen. You must go. You must rescue my baby before it is too late. Eli swallowed hard. His mind raced. He had never dealt with aliens before. He had never faced a flying fortress. He had never even dreamed of dragons being real. And yet, here he was being asked to attempt the impossible. The baby dragon's cries echoed faintly in the canyon, carried by the wind, almost reaching his ears. Each tiny, desperate squeak stabbed at his heart. The dragon took a step closer. Its massive claws dug into the rocky ground, leaving deep grooves. Eli could feel the vibrations through his feet. The dragon's wings twitched nervously, as if it wanted to fly, but could not. Its scales glimmered with a faint light in the dim sunset, almost like fire trapped beneath glass. You have to help me, the dragon said, its voice breaking. Please, my baby. Only you can reach him. Only you can save him. Eli nodded slowly, feeling a strange mix of fear and resolve. He could feel the weight of the task ahead, the impossible challenge. But one thing was clear. He could not walk away. He could not leave the baby dragon chained, alone, in the hands of cruel aliens. I'll try, he said finally, his voice firmer than he expected. Tell me everything. Show me how to save him. The dragon lowered its head until its nose almost touched Eli's. Its eyes shone with tears, or what looked like tears, reflecting the last rays of sun. "We must move quickly," it said. "Time is short. They will not wait. Every moment counts. And remember, you are human. They underestimate you. That is your strength." Eli felt a shiver run down his spine. The dragon's words lingered in his mind. Humans had always been thought weak, fragile, insignificant. But here, in this canyon, facing a danger no human had ever faced, Eli realized something profound. Maybe strength wasn't just muscle or weapons. Maybe it was courage, intelligence, and heart. And with that thought, Eli took a deep breath, looking up at the sky where the distant alien ship might be waiting. He did not yet know how he would succeed. He did not yet know if he could. But he knew one thing. He could not fail. Not when a baby dragon's life hung in the balance. The canyon fell silent again, except for the faint, desperate cries of the baby dragon, calling to him across the vast distance. Eli clenched his fists, determination flashing in his eyes. The impossible mission had begun. Eli followed Lyra through a narrow passage hidden behind a waterfall at the canyon's edge. The roar of the falling water drowned out any sound from the outside world, making the hidden cave seem like a secret sanctuary. Inside, the air was cool and damp, with faint echoes bouncing off the rocky walls. Eli's eyes widened as he took in the cavern. Scattered around the space were strange objects, glowing crystals, scorched stones, and pieces of metal that seemed older than anything Eli had ever seen. But the most astonishing sight was in the center of the cave. Hovering in midair was a series of holographic projections, shimmering like light trapped in mist. Lyra gestured toward them with her clawed wing. "This is where they keep my baby," she said, her voice heavy with worry. "Look closely." Eli leaned forward, trying to make sense of the strange images. They formed a detailed map of an enormous ship floating high above the clouds. Towers of gleaming metal, corridors lined with strange lights, and cages, hundreds of cages, glimmered within the structure. He saw mechanical sentries patrolling the halls, moving with precision and speed. "They are advanced," Lyra said. "Stronger than anything we have faced. They use machines, barriers, and traps. They will notice any weakness. If you try to rush in, it will be the end." Eli's stomach tightened. He had faced dangers before, but nothing like this. The thought of sneaking into an alien fortress filled him with dread. But the small cries of the baby dragon echoed in his mind, carried in his memory from the canyon. He could not ignore them. Lyra lowered her massive head, bringing it closer to projections. Her eyes glowed faintly. "My baby is small, fragile. He is chained. The cage is strong, made of materials even I cannot break. Only someone small, clever, and brave can reach him." Eli nodded, taking a deep breath. He had to be clever. He had to outthink creatures far more advanced than himself. Brute force would not work here. And yet, he felt a spark of determination. Humans had always survived in impossible situations, using their minds and ingenuity when strength alone was not enough. He studied the projections carefully, tracing the paths of the sentries. The robots moved in predictable patterns, but some areas were heavily guarded. Energy barriers shimmered across corridors, glowing with a faint blue light. Eli realized that one wrong step could trigger alarms, and they would swarm the hall instantly. Lyra's tail thumped the ground nervously. Every second counts. They move the cages frequently. You cannot wait, and you must avoid the patrols at all costs. Eli's mind raced. He examined the holographic layout, noticing small details that even Lyra hadn't pointed out. There were ventilation shafts, maintenance tunnels, and shadowed corners where the light did not reach. He could use these to move unseen. He could create distractions, lure the sentries away, and slip through undetected. "This will not be easy," Eli said quietly, almost to himself. "But it's possible. I just need a plan." He pulled out his small tools from his backpack, flashlight, ropes, and a multi-purpose gadget he had designed for exploration. He imagined ways to combine them with the environment. Reflective surfaces to redirect light, small objects to create noise in the opposite direction, ropes to swing across gaps. Each detail mattered. Lyra watched him closely, her golden eyes filled with cautious hope. "You have the mind of a human," she said. "They do not expect you. They underestimate your kind. That is your strength." Eli felt a shiver of pride mixed with fear. Humans were often thought weak, fragile, powerless. But here, against this fortress of alien technology, he might be the only one capable of saving a life. One small human mind, sharp and quick, against countless machines and barriers. Hours passed as they worked. Lyra showed him every detail she knew, marking weak points, guards' routines and the exact location of the baby dragon's cage. Eli sketched a layout in his notebook, drawing escape routes and backup plans. He practiced moving silently through imagined corridors, timing the guard steps in his mind. The cave was filled with tension. Outside, the canyon had grown dark, and the stars shone faintly above the waterfall. Inside, the air pulsed with anticipation. Every sound, every shadow could have been the first warning of danger. But for now, Eli's focus was sharp. His heart pounded with a mix of fear and excitement. Finally, Eli looked up from his notes, eyes determined. "I know what I need to do," he said. "It won't be easy, but I can get to the baby. I can get him out." Lyra lowered her massive head, letting out a low, relieved rumble. "Then we begin at dawn. You must rest. You will need all your strength and wit. Remember, the aliens will not expect a human. That is the edge you carry." Eli nodded, feeling the weight of the mission settle on his shoulders. He knew the path ahead would be dangerous, filled with unknowns. But he also knew something stronger than fear had taken root inside him. Resolve. The baby dragon's cries haunted him, driving him forward. He could not fail. He would not fail. As he laid down on the smooth stone floor, watching the faint glow of the holographic fortress flicker in the darkness, Eli felt a mixture of dread and excitement. Tomorrow, he would step into the unknown. Tomorrow, he would face creatures more advanced than anything humanity had ever known. But he also carried hope. The hope that one clever human could change everything and save a life that no one else could reach. And for the first time, he truly believed that humans, small and underestimated, could make the impossible possible. Night had fallen over the canyon, and the stars were hidden behind thick clouds. Eli followed Lyra to the edge of the cliff, where the dragon's wings spread wide, shimmering faintly in the moonlight. With a powerful beat, Lyra lifted him into the sky, soaring toward the distant alien fortress. Eli clung tightly, his heart racing as the wind whipped past him, carrying the scent of ozone and strange metallic air. When they reached the outskirts of the alien ship, Lyra circled above, keeping out of sight from the patrolling drones. The fortress floated silently against the night sky, massive and glowing faintly with pulsating lights. Eli's stomach twisted. The place was enormous, far bigger than he had imagined. Robotic sentries glided along the edges, scanning every direction, their bright beams of light cutting through the darkness. One wrong step, and the entire fortress would wake. Lyra lowered him onto a narrow ledge beneath a maintenance hatch. The metal was cold under his hands as he pushed the hatch open and slipped inside. Immediately, he was surrounded by blinking panels, strange cables, and corridors lit with a faint blue glow. The hum of machinery filled the air, constant and oppressive. Eli moved carefully, each step measured and quiet. He crouched behind pipes and corners, waiting as the first patrol drones passed by. Their movements were smooth, mechanical, and terrifyingly precise. One glance their way, and they would detect him instantly. His palms were sweaty, but he forced himself to stay calm. He pulled the small toolkit from his backpack. Tiny gadgets, mirrors, and a few improvised tools were all he had. He used a small reflective panel to redirect a sensor beam, holding his breath as the laser passed harmlessly along the wall instead of triggering an alarm. He crept past another corridor, ducking behind a console just as a mechanical guard swept past. His heart pounded in his chest. If the drones noticed him, the alarms would scream through the entire fortress. As he moved deeper into the ship, the corridors grew tighter, the hum of machinery louder. The air smelled faintly of metal and something he could not identify. Something alive, yet alien. Then he heard it, a soft, high-pitched whimper. His stomach twisted with relief and fear. He was close. The corridor opened into a vast chamber. Light from above revealed cages lying along the walls, each glowing faintly. Inside some cages were small, alien creatures, blinking in fear. And then, in the very center, he saw it, the baby dragon. It was tiny, barely the size of a large dog, but every inch it was trembling. Its scales shimmered with an unnatural glow, and bright blue energy cuffs wrapped around its small legs and wings, keeping it chained to the floor. Its eyes were wide with terror, and it let out a soft, desperate cry when it saw Eli. Eli swallowed hard. The baby was smaller than he imagined, fragile and helpless. The cages were made of a strange metal, glowing with energy, impervious to brute force. He crouched carefully in the shadows, examining the locks. Each one hummed with alien energy, pulsing with a rhythm that seemed almost alive. He had to be precise. One wrong move, one wrong touch, and the entire energy field would activate, fry him instantly or alerting the guards. He studied the locks, pulling out a small device from his toolkit, a makeshift energy disruptor he had improvised using Lyra's hints about alien technology. He adjusted the dials, holding his breath, and pressed it against the lock. The machine buzzed and flickered, tiny sparks dancing along the surface. The energy cuffs glowed brighter for a moment, then dimmed. Eli let out a soft sigh of relief, his hands shaking slightly. Slowly, carefully, he unlocked the next cuff. The baby dragon whined softly, curling into a tighter ball as if bracing for pain. Eli whispered, "It's okay? I've got you just a little longer." One by one, he disabled the glowing cuffs, sweat dripping down his forehead. Every sound, the hum of machinery, the software of the drones above, made him tense. His hands moved quickly, guided by instinct and careful observation. Finally, the last cuff clicked open, and the baby dragon leaped into his arms, shaking but alive. For a moment, Eli allowed himself a brief smile. He had done it. The impossible was in his hands. But there was no time to celebrate. A sudden alarm blared, a high-pitched scream that echoed through the fortress. The patrol drones had detected the cage being tampered with. Red lights flashed along the corridors, and mechanical sentries began moving toward him with terrifying speed. Eli clutched the baby dragon tightly and darted toward the nearest side corridor. He ducked behind crates, leaped over wires, and crawled through ventilation tunnels. The drone searchlights scanned every corner, and their mechanical voices repeated, "Unauthorized access detected. Intruder detected." The baby dragon whimpered but didn't struggle, trusting Eli completely. Its small body radiated heat, soft against his chest. Eli whispered soothing words, keeping his fear buried deep. His mind raced, calculating each step, each turn, each leap. He had no room for mistakes. Finally, after what felt like hours and mere minutes, he reached a large hatch at the edge of the fortress. It led to an external maintenance platform where Lyra would be waiting. Eli pressed the baby dragon to his chest and tapped a hidden panel to open the hatch. The cool night air rushed in, carrying the scent of metal and ozone. Above him, a shadow passed, a giant wing brushing against the moonlight. Lyra had arrived. With a powerful beat, she swooped down, her eyes blazing with urgency and relief. Eli handed the baby to her, and she lifted it carefully into her claws. "Good work, human," she said, her voice low but filled with awe. "You have done what many dragons could not. Now hold on." Eli scrambled onto a ledge as Lyra took off, rising into the night sky. Behind them, the fortress blared alarms, lights flashing like a storm of fire. But Eli didn't look back. He had accomplished the impossible. He had infiltrated the alien fortress, saved a life, and survived. And as they disappeared into the clouds, he realized something profound. Humans might be small. Humans might be underestimated. But tonight, one human had outsmarted the strongest technology in the galaxy and saved a dragon. The alarms blared so loud that Eli could feel the vibrations in his chest. Red lights flashed across the corridors of the alien fortress, turned the walls into a chaotic maze of color and motion. Every hum of machinery seemed sharper, louder, angrier. Eli's heart pounded as he clutched the small baby dragon tightly against his chest. Its tiny body trembled, but it nuzzled closer to him, trusting him completely. They know I've taken him." Eli whispered to himself, panic rising. The fortress was alive with activity now. Mechanical sentries moved faster, lights scanned every corner, and automated turrets rotated, seeking any sign of the intruder. One wrong move, one stumble, and it would all be over. He sprinted down the corridor, low to the ground, dodging flashing beams of red light. His eyes darted to every shadow, every corner. The hum of the sentries grew louder behind him, the sound of metallic footsteps echoing like thunder. Eli had studied the patrol routes carefully, but now the aliens had discovered the theft, and every calculated step now became a desperate gamble. Up ahead, a group of robotic guards blocked the main corridor. They were large, heavily armored, and equipped with weapons that glowed with energy. Eli froze for a heartbeat, weighing his options. The baby dragon whimpered softly in his arms. He couldn't afford hesitation. He ducked into a side corridor, a maintenance tunnel he had noticed in the holographic projection earlier. It was narrow, barely wide enough for him, but it gave him cover. Sparks flew from damaged wires overhead as he climbed over debris, using every ounce of agility and cunning he possessed. Behind him, the guards activated scanners, sending waves of blue energy that swept across the tunnel, searching for heat signatures. Eli held the baby close, ducked low, and pressed himself against the wall as the wave passed, barely avoiding detection. Then, a sound like thunder rolled through the hall. Eli looked up just in time to see a shadow sweep across the ceiling. Lyra had arrived. Her massive wings beat with tremendous force, sending gusts of wind that rattled doors and scattered debris. She roared, a sound that shook the corridors and sent the sentries spinning in confusion. Eli felt a surge of relief and awe. Lyra swooped low, grabbing the baby dragon carefully in her claws. Eli leaped onto the edge of a platform just as a sentry turned toward him. Using a quick reflex, he grabbed a loose pipe and swung across the corridor, narrowly avoiding the sentry's energy blast. Sparks flew where the beam hit the metal wall, and Eli's heart nearly stopped. One more step, and he would be exposed. The chase was on. Aliens activated emergency defenses, closing doors, triggering energy barriers, and releasing automated drones into the corridors. Eli ran, leaping over gaps, ducking under swinging doors, and sliding across smooth metal floors. The baby dragon chirped softly, as if sensing his fear, and Eli whispered, "Almost there, almost there." He reached a wide atrium where the fortress opened into a massive hangar. Lyra circled above, her wings creating turbulence that knocked drones off course. Eli looked up and calculated his next move. There were energy barriers forming between him and the exit platform. He had no weapons, only his mind, his speed, and his courage. Spotting a dangling cable overhead, Eli jumped and grabbed it. He swung across the energy barriers like a tightrope walker, timing his swings to avoid the lasers below. Sparks rained from the contact, and his arms burned, but he did not falter. One swing, two swings, and he landed on the far platform. The sentries were closing in, faster now, alerted by the chaos Lyra had caused. Eli's lungs burned, and the baby dragon chirped urgently, sensing the danger. But Eli's mind was sharp, thinking 3 steps ahead. He triggered a loose panel near the platform, releasing a cloud of sparks and smoke that obscured the sentry sensors. The machines hesitated, giving him a precious few seconds. Above, Lyra swooped down. She hovered, waiting for Eli to leap onto her back. He ran, timing the jump perfectly, and grasped her sturdy talons. With a powerful beat of her wings, they lifted off the platform. The fortress sprawled beneath them, a maze of blinking lights and frantic machines. Red alarms painted the night sky as the alien sentry scrambled, but Eli and Lyra rose higher and faster. For a moment, the world felt still. Eli clutched the baby dragon to his chest and looked down at the fortress shrinking below. His heart still raced, adrenaline surging through his veins. But relief washed over him. They were not out of danger yet. More sentries could appear, more barriers could rise, but for now, they had escaped immediate threat. Lyra's golden eyes met his. "You are clever human," she said, her voice a low rumble. "You think fast. You act even faster. That saved us both." Eli smiled, though he was still catching his breath. He had faced impossible odds, and he had survived. Below them, the fortress's alarms blared into night, echoing across the clouds. But Eli knew something powerful. Humans were underestimated. Yes, but they could think, adapt, and survive. And tonight, one human had proven that courage and quick thinking could outmatch even the most advanced alien technology. As they flew into the darkness, away from the fortress, the baby dragon chirped softly in Eli's arms, finally beginning to relax. Lyra circled them, keeping a protective eye on the skies. The danger was not completely gone, but the hardest part was over. Eli's heart still pounded, but a sense of triumph filled him. One human, clever and determined, had outsmarted an alien fortress and rescued a life that many thought could never be saved. And as the wind rushed past them and the fortress shrank behind them, Eli realized something important. Even in the vastness of space, humans could make a difference. The wind had settled, and the clouds had begun to thin, revealing streaks of moonlight across the jagged canyon. Eli's arms ached from holding the baby dragon so tightly, but the creature had finally stopped trembling. Its small body pressed against him, warm and fragile, as if every beat of its heart depended on his courage. Above them, Lyra circled in wide arcs, her golden scales gleaming softly in the pale light. Eli guided her to a hidden plateau deep in the canyon, away from the eyes of the alien fortress. The ground was smooth, surrounded by tall rocks, providing a perfect place for mother and child to reunite. Lyra landed carefully, her massive claws leaving deep impressions in the stone. She lowered her head until her eyes met Eli's, scanning him as if measuring his worth. Then, without hesitation, she shifted her attention to her baby. The baby dragon squealed in delight and nuzzled against its mother. Lyra's wings wrapped around the small creature in a protective embrace. Eli watched in awe as she lowered her massive head, pressing it gently against the baby. The relief in her eyes was unlike anything he had ever seen. Pure joy, gratitude, and love. For a moment, the canyon seemed to stand still, the only sound to soften of her wings and the baby's quiet chirps. You saved him," Lyra said finally, her voice low and reverent. "No dragon has ever faced such danger and returned. Yet here you are. You risked everything for my child." Eli felt a wave of exhaustion wash over him. His legs trembled, his arms ached, and his lungs burned from the chase. But he also felt a surge of pride and wonder. Humans were small, fragile, and often underestimated. And yet, he had done the impossible. He had outsmarted an alien fortress, navigated deadly corridors, and rescued a life that countless others might have abandoned as lost. Lyra's eyes softened as she looked at him. "You are one of us now," she said, her voice carrying a quiet authority. "Not by blood, but by courage, by heart. Humans are weak, they say, but you have proven that even the smallest of us can make a difference when we are brave enough to try." Eli felt the weight of her words settle in his chest. He had always believed humans could rise to challenges, but hearing it from a creature as magnificent and wise as Lyra made him realize the truth. Courage was not measured by size or strength, but by the willingness to act when others would stand frozen in fear. The baby dragon chirped again, its tiny eyes sparkling with trust. Eli held it gently, feeling its warmth and heartbeat. "You're safe now," he whispered. "Your mother's here. You're going to be okay." The baby blinked up at him, almost as if it understood, and curled closer to him for a moment before nuzzling back into Lyra's embrace. From a distance, a group of humans, researchers who had been studying the canyon and had witnessed strange movements, watched in awe. They had arrived too late to see the infiltration, but they saw the incredible sight of a human standing beside a dragon, one arm wrapped protectively around a tiny, rescued life. Murmurs of astonishment rippled through the group. They had always doubted humanity's ability to face the unknown, but now they saw proof. Intelligence, courage, and determination could overcome even the most advanced threats. Eli turned to look at them briefly and nodded, a quiet acknowledgement of their recognition. He felt tired, yes, but he also felt something stronger. The pride of knowing that humans could rise above fear, that one person's resolve could change the course of events in ways no one had thought possible. Lyra lowered her massive wings, folding them around herself and the baby dragon. She looked at Eli again, her eyes glimmering with respect. "You risked your life. You think, you plan, and you act when others hesitate. You are clever, brave, and now you are family, not just to us, but to all who fight for what is right." Eli smiled faintly. I didn't do it for praise. I did it because it was the right thing to do," he said. But inside, he felt a warmth he had never experienced before. Recognition from a dragon, an intelligent, majestic, ancient creature, was more powerful than any human acknowledgement could ever be. Above the canyon, the distant lights of the alien fortress still glimmered, a reminder that danger was never truly gone. The aliens had been outsmarted tonight, but they would not forget. Eli knew this. He knew that one day they might return stronger and more determined. But he also knew something more important. Humans were not weak. They could think, adapt, and act when courage called. And he, one small human, had made a difference. Lyra nudged him gently with her snout. Rest, human. The night is yours to claim. Tomorrow we will be stronger, and the universe will remember the courage of one who dared to face the impossible. Eli nodded, feeling the weight of exhaustion finally pull him down. He sat on the soft grass of the plateau, watching Lyra hold her baby against her chest. The wind carried the scent of freedom, of victory, of hope. For the first time that night, he allowed himself to breathe deeply, to feel the quiet satisfaction of a mission completed. And as he looked up at the stars, twinkling like distant promises, Eli realized the truth. Heroism was not in weapons or power. It was in heart, in courage, in the willingness to rise when others would fall. And tonight, a human had proven that even the smallest being could change the course of fate. The baby dragon chirped once more, curling into its mother's embrace. Eli smiled faintly, feeling the bond of trust that had formed between them. The world was vast, dangerous, and full of unknowns. But for now, one human had saved a life, earned the respect of a dragon, and shown that bravery knows no species. Above them, Lyra's wings spread wide in the night sky. And in that moment, Eli understood something he would never forget. Humans, small and underestimated, could leave a mark larger than the universe itself.